Okay, let's talk about genetization a bit more. And before we discuss the concept of genetization, let's distinguish between genotype and phenotype. Genotypes are essentially hereditary information that makes up the genes of an organism. So, what is an organism? An organism is any single cell life forms like human beings, plants, animals, and so on. And phenotypes are just the traits, the attributes, the features, or the characteristics that can be observed within an organism. So, if you research the concept of genetization further, this concept was taken into its extreme by Francis Galton's student. In my opinion, even though Francis Galton was Charles Darwin's first cousin, I think this wasn't his ideas, or in my humble opinion, I think his ideals were not as extreme as his students. So, just my 2 cents, the concept of genetization was taken into its extreme by Francis Galton's students. Even though the concept of genetization or genetic determinism hasn't been coined in the BC era, in my opinion, but I think the early philosophers like Plato and Aristotle had eugenic notions in their thinking and writing, in my humble opinion. For instance, Plato believed that if the best quality man in any society is being joined with the best quality women in the same society, is going to produce an ideal society. That's Plato's notion of ideal society through his marriage quotient of best quality men with best quality women. And it seemed to me that Aristotle carried forth this notion. So, I think the ideals associated with the concept of genetization originates way earlier than Francis Galton. That's my 2 cents. You don't need to agree. And it is a no-brainer. We all know that maybe the concept of genetic determinism or genetization also manifest themselves in the works of Charles Darwin. And according to Darwin's theory of natural selection, it means organisms with genotypes or phenotypes traits that aligns best to their environment are more likely to survive and to reproduce. And organisms with less desirable or less favorable genotype and phenotype traits are eliminated through this process. So, I think Darwin's survival of the fittest have some overlap with the concept of genetization.